Hare Krishna, everybody. Welcome back to another session of Bhagavad Gita in 18 days. So we will say the Mangala Charan. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurve Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupam Kadamayyam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurum Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagra Jatam Sagana Lalita Sahagana Raghunathanditan Tam Sajivan Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhambitamsya He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhuva Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So Hare Krishna, good to see you all again. So we will just take a quick recap of what we did yesterday about Karma Yoga, action in Krishna consciousness. So who will volunteer today? Rohini Mataji, today are you equipped?
Actually, I am not able to recollect. I am able to understand things, but not able to connect. Present here.
Yes, okay. So we will sort that out after the 6th chapter, how all the 6 chapters, initial 1 to 6 are connected to each other. We will sort that out. Anyone else? Deepika Mataji, Satyananda Sahu Prabhuji. So since nobody is around, better that I recap what we had done yesterday. So yesterday we did Karma Yoga, action in Krishna consciousness. So when we, the process is, as Rohini Mataji said, that a course of action is designed by Lord Sri Krishna for us to get out of the reaction of work. So he has explained to us what is karma, vikarma, akaram. And of the 3 types of works, akaram has to be performed. He has clearly said that. Now, how we get to this stage of akaram? It begins with regulated life. From animalistic life, you come to a regulated lifestyle. And then you perform sakam karma. Sakam karma means work which is done to fulfill our desires. Okay, so work has to be performed in a regulated way. After that, when you are used to working like that, you are supposed to move up and perform nishkam karma. Now that you have got used to working in a systematic way to fulfill your desires, now you start working uh, selflessly without expecting any fruits for your work. Nishkamkam. You have gradually come to that in Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga without knowledge. So this is a routine practice. All over the world, you see that Varnashrama exists. The fact that the system of marriage is there all over the world means that they have been following the Varnashrama dharma, because the system of marriage is designed for that. So when you perform nishkam karma, you get purified. Slowly your desires, material desires reduce. And then you are eligible to understand transcendental knowledge, Jnana Yoga. Right? So how do you get this Jnana Yoga? What is Jnana Yoga? It is to know what is matter, what is spirit. What is the difference between matter? What is the difference between spirit? And who is the super soul? Transcendental knowledge also has to be understood. So when you come to this stage after purifying by doing your prescribed duties without expectation of fruits, the understanding of Lord, the difference between matter and spirit, after gaining this knowledge, you perform Buddhi Yoga or devotional service. Devotional services, activities in Krishna conscious with knowledge of the Supreme, with the knowledge that we are not this body. So why did we perform prescribed duties? To come to this stage of performing activities which are beyond the jurisdiction of the material modes of nature, which does not have any reaction. Why? Because it is on transcendental plane. Transcendental means which is beyond the control of modes of material nature. So bhakti is beyond any reaction. Whenever you are engaging in bhakti, you are doing a karma, work without any reaction. Why? Because you are not performing this work on your account. So it is not your responsibility. You are performing this work on account of the Lord. So whose responsibility it is to take over you? It is God's responsibility. So you do not incur any sinful reaction. There is no reaction for this kind of work. Now we progress further where Lord is saying that there is another way. The whole purpose of yoga is Indriya Sangmama, to control the mind and the senses and engage them in Lord's service. This is the whole purpose of all these yoga systems we have studied so far. And now the Lord is going to tell Arjuna about Dhyana Yoga, about a mechanical yoga system of controlling mind and senses. The purpose of that also is, to know God and our relationship with God, nothing else. So now this Dhyana Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga, it is also known as Ashtanga Yoga. We are going to know about this mechanical process of attaining the Supreme. So chapter number 6, Dhyana Yoga. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Anashita karma phalam karyam karma karoti ya sasanyasi cha yogi cha nani ragnir Chakriya. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, one who is unattached to the fruits of his work and who works as he is obligated is in the renounced order of life, and he is the true mystic, not he who lights no fire and performs no duty. So, who is the true sannyasi? Who is the actual person who is in the renounced order? A person who is not attached to the fruits of his work, who has renounced the fruits of his work, and who works as he is obligated in his renounced order of life, he is a true mystic. Not the person who does not perform, does not light fire and perform no duty. Not the person who has given up everything and gone and he's in the jungle, he's gone to the jungle, run away. So here it's clearly explained. The Lord explains that the process of eightfold yoga system is a means to control the mind and senses. However, this is very difficult for people in general to perform, especially in the age of Kali. Although the eightfold yoga system is recommended in this chapter, the Lord emphasizes that the process of karma yoga or acting in Krishna consciousness is better. This will be announced by the Lord in last sloka of this chapter. Everyone acts in this world to maintain his family and their paraphernalia, but no one is working without some self-interest, some personal gratification, be it concentrated or extended. Concentrated means it is restricted to yourself. Extended, sense gratification is when the sense gratification of the people we are related to is like when you get married. Stree, you see, you get married to a stree. What does stree means? Stree means extension, vistar, stree, vistar. So you are extending your desires. The desires of this lady also become yours. You work for her desires also. So like that, you go on extending your desires as you grow in family. First it is your wife, then it comes to your children, then uncle, aunt, grandfather, grandmother, their desires get. So there are so many desires which get attached to us. It may not be our desire, but it may be somebody else's desire whom we are connected to. So these are all extended desires. The criterion of perfection is to act in Krishna consciousness and not with the view of enjoying the fruits of work. But the motivation of people in general is to work for themselves only. The concept of performing service is not there at all. That is why the whole human society is suffering, because nobody wants to serve each other. Whereas happiness is derived only by the means of service. We love and we want to be loved. We serve and we want to be served. This is the way the soul can be happy. This is the nature of the soul, to love the Lord. And all this relationship is always there with God. The other relationships that we see around us, it is only a manifestation or a fraction of this love that we have for God, that we are able to distribute it to others. If we don't have this love for God, this selfless love, we cannot give love to anybody around us. And as you sow, so you reap. You will not even be able to get love in return, service in return. And that becomes, the reason for our unhappiness. So Srila Prabhupada explains that, just like a finger, It is a very important part of our body. You see, the finger. But, and suppose, the finger is injured. You spend so much money, to rectify it. It is so important. Maybe your thumb. But suppose this thumb cuts off from your body and falls down. Does it hold any value? It will just dry out and finish. Like that, we hold value only as long as we are connected to God. As soon as they are disconnected from God, we just dry out. Our original nature of Satchid Ananda vanishes. The soul by nature is, it is eternal. It is full of knowledge. What is the knowledge? Jivere, we are fragmental parts of Krishna and we are meant to serve him. So it is full of knowledge, it is full of bliss. The natural existing condition of the soul is to be happy. But when we disconnect from the supreme Satchidananda Vigraha, we just dry out. These qualities disappear. We become temporary. Instead of eternal, we get a temporary body. Instead of being in knowledge, we are in ignorance. We don't even know our actual position in this world. And instead of being Anand, experiencing Anand, we are Niranand. We are always unhappy. There's something to crib about always. So the sannyasis sometimes artificially think that they have become liberated from all material duties and therefore they cease to perform Agnihotra Yajna. Agnihotra Yajna, the routine practices that we have, like getting up in the morning, taking a bath, going to the temple, lighting, watering the tulsi, making prayer. So these are routine activities we have in our life. So they think sannyas means giving up all this and just running away. But actually they are self-interested because their goal is to become one with the impersonal Brahman. Even the sannyasis, you see, who go away to the forest and perform these great austerities, actually they are very selfish. Why? Because they are only bothered about their betterment. They want to, get out of the cycle of birth and death. They meditate alone for so many years in the forest. Whereas a devotee, he works for benefit of everyone. He is not just bothered that I should get out of all these miseries. He is bothered that others around me also should get out of it. He helps others. So this is taking responsibility. They take responsibility. 2. What is called renunciation, you should know to be the same as yoga or linking oneself with the Supreme. O son of Pandu, for one can never become a yogi unless he renounces the desire for sense gratification. So the whole idea behind all these yoga systems is that you renounce the desire for sense gratification. The transformation from enjoying to the propensity to serve. This has to be cultivated. Real sannyas, yoga or bhakti means that one should know his constitutional position as the living entity and act accordingly. The living entity has no separate independent identity. Whatever activity, the sole purpose of yogas is so that the Lord can experience and enjoy their service. So whenever we do not do that, the result is that we get embodied. 3. For one who is a neophyte in the eightfold yoga system, work is said to be the mean. And for one who is already elevated in yoga, cessation of all material activities is said to be the mean. So They both actually mean the same thing, but still the whole purpose of yoga is to elevate oneself to the standard of service. And one who is already elevated in yoga, cessation of material activity set. So actually there are two stages in the Ashtang Yoga. First of all, you must know what is Ashtanga Yoga. Ashta means eight, eightfold path of yoga system. So it starts with yam, niyam, asana, pranayam, pratyahar, dharana, dhyan, and samadhi. So gradually by regulating our, breath, mind and senses, we come to fix our mind on Lord. The mind is running away here and there all the time. So one has to discipline the mind, and the senses which are under the mind, they automatically get disciplined. So in this yoga process, the eightfold yoga process, there are two stages. The two stages are yoga rurukshu and yoga ruda. So the first five, that is yam, niyam, asan, pranayam, pratyahar, these come under the first stage where you are regulating all your mind and senses. After that is the more advanced stage where, dharana, you fix your mind, you concentrate on this, the Supreme Lord, and dhyan, you just focus on him alone, nothing else. First of all, dharana means actually you are contemplating the form of Lord. And dhyan is like you're focusing on God. And samadhi is when you are engrossed in that. There is nothing else in your mind. Everything else is absent. So you have to come to that stage. Absence of everything else, cessation of material activities. Nirvana actually means that cessation of material activities. So when you are completely immersed in Lord, that is the stage of samadhi. Concerning the eightfold yoga systems, attempts in the beginning to enter into meditation through regulative principles of life and practice of different sitting postures, which are more or less bodily exercises, are considered fruitive material activities. All such activities lead to achieving perfect mental equilibrium to control the senses. When one is accomplished in the practice of meditation, he ceases all disturbing mental activities. A Krishna conscious person, however, is situated from the beginning on the platform of meditation because he always thinks of Krishna, and being constantly engaged in the service of Krishna, he is considered to have ceased all material activities. So here in this chapter, Srila Prabhupada is drawing a parallel between Bhakti Yoga and Ashtanga Yoga. Ki how a yogi reaches that stage and how a bhakta or a devotee reaches that stage without any extraneous effort, automatically. 4. A person is said to be elevated in yoga when, having renounced all material desires, he neither acts for sense gratification nor engages in fruitive activities. So what is the purpose of yoga? To get rid of sense gratification. You should just not desire to gratify your senses, and he should not also engage in activities for this sense gratification. When a person is fully engaged in transcendental loving service of the Lord, he is pleased in himself, and thus he is no longer engaged in sense gratification or fruitive activities. Otherwise, one must be engaged in sense, because there are only two ways. The soul by nature cannot be inert. It is active. It has to be engaged somewhere. If you don't engage in devotional practices, automatically again it will be just like, water flows down. You see a river, it flows downward. So the tendency is always towards sense gratification, because the senses, material senses, are designed so. They're always attracted to their sense objects. So this whole process of yoga is to stop this. So one must deliver himself with the help of his mind and not degrade himself. The mind is the friend of a conditioned soul and his enemy as well. So how? Like your mind is there, the mind is supposed to listen to you. It has to serve your desire. It's something like you have a car and you have a driver. The driver is your mind. So he drives you around everywhere, throughout the city, up, down, everywhere. So this driver, if he listens to you and you tell him, I want to go to the school, and he takes you to the school. The driver says, "No, I want to go to the temple," and he takes you to the temple. Then he is your friend. But suppose you tell him, take me to the office, and he takes you to some pub, then this kind of a mind is your enemy. He doesn't listen to you. He's not in your control. So one should not degrade oneself by, listening to one's mind is always conditioned with our past association. So whenever one has to make choices, one must do it from the spiritual perspective, not due to your mind, what your mind likes or dislikes. Attraction and aversion are because of our past association. You can't trust that. It may or may not be correct, what you like, what you don't like. So you must see through the scripture, Shastra Chakshu. You must take a spiritual perspective of the situation and then make choices. So one must deliver himself with the help of his mind and not degrade himself. 6. For him who has conquered the mind is the best of friends. But one who has failed to do so, his mind will remain the greatest enemy. So if your mind is not in your control, it is your biggest enemy. You don't need enemies outside. It will create all the mess for you. The purpose of practicing eightfold yoga is to control the mind in order to make it a friend in discharging the human mission. Unless the mind is controlled, the practice of yoga is simply a waste of time. One who cannot control his mind lives always with the greatest enemy. Very strong statement. One voluntarily agrees to abide by the dictation of the personality of Godhead, who is situated within the heart of everyone as Paramatma. Real yoga practice entails meeting the Paramatma within the heart and then following his dictation. For one who takes to Krishna consciousness directly, perfect surrender, the dictation of the Lord follows automatically. So why all this? To discipline our mind to listen to the dictation of God. Because we are rebellious by nature. We don't want to do what God wants us to do. That was Arjuna's problem. He didn't have the capacity to understand Lord's plan. and so we do. So do we. So, 7. For one who has conquered the mind, the super soul is already reached, for he has attained tranquility. In the last chapter, the peace formula was given. Bhoktaram yajna tapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suridam sarvabhutanam gyatva mam shantim richati. Who attains true peace? A person who has realized that the Lord is, the enjoyer of all austerities and sacrifices. Whatever has to be done is to please the Lord. To such a man, happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor are all the same. They transcend their egos. A person who has understood from inside that Lord is everything, they unify with the Lord's desire. You see, even in material life, why we separate, why there is a separation in a relationship, whether it is brothers, sisters, whether it is wife, husband, because we desire differently. We do not have the same desire. One brother has one desire, other brother has another desire. Both are contrasting, so they part ways. Similarly, the wife has some desire, the husband has some desire, they part ways. Father, son, father, daughter, mother, daughter, they have different desires, they part ways. Like that, because we desired separately from Krishna, we separated from him. This is the cause of our suffering. So, a person who again understands, no, my Father Krishna is everything, and I will listen to whatever he says and do whatever he says. He has already attained tranquility. That is the peace formula. So when you call ekatvam, is a term used that how you unify with Lord. You do not unify with Lord and you become like God. You become God. It's not like that. You unify in Lord's desire. Because of the separated desire, you were taken away from him. When you unify in the Lord's desire, you again get back to your transcendental constitutional position. So a person who has realized this, he has already attained tranquility. He's already liberated. Actually, every living entity is intended to abide by the dictation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is seated in everyone's heart as Paramatma. When the mind is misled by the external illusionary energy, one becomes entangled in material activities. Therefore, as soon as one's mind is controlled through one of the yoga systems, one should be considered to have already reached the destination. One has to abide by superior dictation. So the mind must admit some superior dictation and follow it. The effect of controlling the mind is that one automatically follows the dictation of Paramatma. So clear. 8. A person is said to be established in the self-realization and is called a yogi or mystic when he is fully satisfied by the virtue of acquired knowledge and realization. Such a person is situated in transcendence and is self-controlled. He sees everything, whether it be pebbles, stones, or gold, as the same. So now here the symptom of a person who is self-realized in yoga, any one of the yoga practices. Earlier also you had seen how, what are the symptoms in of a person who self-realized in karma yoga, in a jnana yoga. And now again, here the symptoms of a person who is self-realized. The only difference is the experience of higher and lower pleasures in their experiences. So here a person, so he is again situated in his self-control. He sees whether it be pebbles or stones as the same. Why? Because everything belongs to God. Isopnishat. Ishavasam idam sarvam yat kincha jagatyam jagat tena taktena bhunjita ma grida kasyasvid dhanam. So everything inert, whether it is living, non-living, belongs to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. He is the proprietor and the master of everything. So whether it is gold or whether it is stone, it is not mine. When that sense of proprietorship is gone, how does it matter what you have, what you don't have? So this mental state he attains. So no one here, again this shloka from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is quoted by Srila Prabhupada. Atta Sri Krishna Namadi na bhavi grayam indrai sevan mukhe hi jivado swayam meva spuratyada. No one can understand the transcendental nature of the name, form, quality, pastime of Sri Krishna through his material contaminated senses. Only when one becomes spiritually saturated by transcendental service to the Lord are the transcendental names, forms, quality, and pastimes of Lord revealed to him. So what the whole process of yoga is to purify our senses, because with polluted, contaminated senses, we cannot perceive God nor his dictation. A person is considered still further advanced when he regards honest well-wishers, affectionate benefactors, the neutral mediators, the envious, friends and enemies, the pious and the sinners, all with an equal mind. Why this experience is higher? Because here that ego is, it's not there. We consider somebody our enemy because we considered ourselves separate from God. Please remember that all the opulences, there are 6 opulences, uh, all beauty, all fame, all wealth, all strength, all knowledge, all renaissance. These are the 6 opulences. And whatever opulences we see around us are a fragmental part of the opulences of God. Because God is pleased with that person, he has given a part of his opulence to that person, be it beauty, knowledge, strength, all these. So why we consider somebody our enemy? Because we are envious. Why does he have that opulences? I don't have it. And suppose you have an opulence, you feel that no one else should enjoy it apart from me. This is enviousness. And because of this enviousness, all these differences arise. Well-wishers, affectionate benefactors, the neutral, mediators, envious, friends, enemies, the pious sinners. We differentiate because of this. But when a person is self-realized, he understands that Lord is the enjoyer of everything. And whoever is there around me is a part of Lord. And he is in relationship with Lord. So where is the question of enmity? He is in relationship with Lord. I am in relationship with Lord. So where is the question of enmity? Nobody is his enemy. Everybody is his friend. 10. A transcendentalist should always engage his body, mind, and self in relationship with the Supreme. He should live alone in a secluded place. So, from here, shloka number 10, the actual Ashtanga Yoga method or the process is being described by the Lord. How to perform Ashtanga Yoga. So the first primary condition is that a transcendentalist should always engage his body, mind, and self in relationship with the Supreme. He should live alone in a secluded place and should always carefully control his mind. He should be free from desire and feeling of possessiveness. This is the first criteria to perform this Ashtanga Yoga. That is why Srila Prabhupada said it is very difficult for us to do this. In fact, even in Dwapar Yug, Treta Yug, Arjuna rejected it. You will see that here. So he should live alone in a secluded place. Why? Because the senses are so strong that if you are even with one sense object, your mind will waver away. Alone also means that you must live in association of those who are at least in Sattva Gun or who are related to God or who are in godly practices. Because if you live in a society which does not respect God, gradually it is going to have its influence on your psyche. And should live alone in a secluded place. And so a secluded place, actually it said you must live in a holy place where everything, reminds you of God. So he must carefully control his mind. He should be free from desire and feeling of possessiveness. So he must be free from desire too. Only when a person gains this, he will readily agree to leave this all material world and go to a secluded place. Only if he is free from desire, he will do that. Otherwise, why will he feel like going also? So he should be very careful to accept favorable and reject unfavorable conditions which affect his realization. So I'm not remembering that sloka. Nirbandhe Krishna Sambandhe. It's there, but here it is given. Srila Prabhupada himself has quoted. अनासक्तस्य विषयान् यथार्थम् उपयुञ्जता निर्बन्ध कृष्ण सम्बन्धे युक्तं वैराग्यमुच्यते प्रापञ्चिकाया बुद्धि हरि सम्बन्धि वस्तुना मुमुक्षुभिः परित्यागो वैराग्य फल्गु कथ्यते. When one is not attached to anything, but at the same time accepts everything in relation to Krishna, one is rightly situated above possessiveness. So this is one of the conditions. On the other hand, one who rejects everything without knowledge of its relationship to Krishna is not as complete in his renunciation. So people who just give up everything and go to the forest and do not understand the relationship between everything around him and God. That is why, see in the previous shloka, well-wishers on affectionate benefactors, the neutral mediators, the envious friends, enemies, the pious and the sinners with all equal mind. Because he is not attached to his uh, what you say perception of good and bad. Liking is also attachment, disliking is also attachment. A Krishna conscious person well knows that everything belongs to Krishna and thus he is always free from feeling of personal possession. As such, he has no hankering for anything on his own personal account. He knows how to accept things in favor of Krishna consciousness and how to reject things unfavorable to Krishna consciousness. He is always aloof from material things because he is always transcendental and he is always alone, having nothing to do with the persons not in Krishna consciousness. Therefore, a person in Krishna consciousness is a perfect yogi. So, people now again, the contrast is being explained here. Actually, parallelness here between an Ashtanga yogi and a devotee. So, what the Ashtanga yogi does, he gets out of possessiveness, he leaves everything, packs up everything, and leaves. Whereas a person in devotion, he understands, he is not attached, he does not reject anything because he understands the relationship even of the sinners with God. He understands and he tries to utilize everything in service of the Lord. The purpose is to realize this position and act accordingly. So, 11 and 12. To practice yoga, one should go to a secluded place and should lay kusha grass on the ground and then cover it with deer skin and a soft cloth. The seat should neither be too high nor too low and should be situated in a sacred place. The yogi should then sit on it very firmly and practice yoga to purify the heart by controlling his mind, senses, and activities and fixing his mind on one point. So, to practice yoga, one must go to a secluded place. Secluded means where no chance of, there is no such sinful people should be there. The senses are very strong, you see. They can get distracted very easily. Shaubri Muni was another sage, who performed austerities under the sea for thousands of years. So much so that his body became scaled. When you put your skin in water, how white, thick skin is formed. His entire body became a lump of white flesh because he was meditating, doing such great austerities under the sea. And under the sea, he just happens to, because the eyes, now in the further this thing, you will see that the eyes are not closed completely. They are half closed and half open, and you are seeing the tip of your nose. That is what, fixing the mind on one point. That is the tip of the nose. You have to fix your vision there, where you are able to see, but you are not able to see. Because if you close your eyes completely, you will fall asleep. So this is the condition. And the Shaubri Muni, he sees a fish mating under the sea. Just imagine. One sense got distracted and he developed the desire to do the same. Now the fish is enjoying with another fish. I also want to enjoy. And he comes out of the sea and goes to the king there, He has 50 daughters, very beautiful daughters. And he is white, scaled skin, old and ugly. And he goes to the Raj Sabha. But in those days, the king would know that this person is a yogi and a yogi has more power than anybody else. If a yogi wants, he can create within no time whatever he wants. He gets Ashtasiddhis. There are 8 Ashtasiddhis, like being able to go anywhere you want, becoming smaller than the smallest, being able to fly, disappear, and so many, 8 are there. So he goes there and he says, I want to marry your daughter. The king, he is horrified to see him, the way he is. He says, if I'm going to refuse openly to him, he might curse me and my entire kingdom will be ruined. So very diplomatically he says, sure, Munivar, you can marry any one of my daughters if they like you. But they should like you. That is the criteria. And he thinks that because he's ugly, all his daughters will refuse and he will go away. So this Shaubhari Muni, what he does with his Yoga Maya, he transforms himself into a young prince. They can even, withhold time with their breath. They're so powerful. And when those 50 princesses, they see him, they all are attracted to him because he's a yogi, very smart. And they all marry him. And so the senses are so strong that even one distraction, so you must go alone where no such possibility is there. Here, on the other hand, the devotee, he is in the middle of the world with all the distractions, but he is still not attracted. Why? Because he is getting a higher taste in service of Lord. He is purified to the extent where he doesn't, even if you show him 100 videos, he will not be attracted. He will not have that interest. That is so, a devotee is always higher. So here now, kusha grass, he should lay kusha grass. You see, kusha grass absorbs radiation. It is scientifically also proven. So when you are deep in meditation, you really don't know what negative forces are there around you. So kusha grass also makes you lighter. See, it makes you lighter. So that, in many places you will see yogis, they fly up in the air. They become lighter than air also. And on the ground, then cover it with deer skin, because deer skin acts as a repellent to reptiles and snakes. They don't, there's some natural thing in them, what repellent or something. And red ants also, you are deep in meditation and red ants are coming, snakes are coming to disturb you. So they must put a deer skin. So now here you see the yoga that we are practicing in current times, 1,000 people gathering in one place and doing some gymnastic. That is not the correct way to do yoga. It is only a partial fragmental part of yoga, and it is not uh, going to unite you with God, because after doing that yoga, you again get back to sense gratification activities. It is like, pouring water on fire. No use. Waste of time. That's why Srila Prabhupada said. So the seat should be neither too high nor too low and should be situated in a sacred place. The yogi should then sit on very firmly and practice yoga to purify the heart by controlling his mind, senses, and activities and fixing the mind on one point. So usually people, to perform these penances, they go to Prayag, Vrindavan, Rishikesha, Haridwar. They go into the caves, into the mountains alone, not in groups. Yoga is never performed in groups. You see the sages, they go up on top of Mount Everest and they're sitting there alone. So the yoga that we perform today is not at all certified here. One who is not self-controlled and whose mind is not undisturbed cannot practice meditation. What is the disturbance? Your desires. Now I have seen, I have heard, some yoga practitioners, they say you will have a great, uh, uh, vigor to enjoy, whether it is sex or eating or that, by practicing yoga, which is not the actual purpose of yoga. So in Bruhan Naradya Puran, it is stated that in Kali Yuga, when people in general are short-lived, slow in spiritual realization, and always disturbed by various anxieties, the best means of spiritual realization is chanting the holy name of the Lord. Harar Nama, Harar Nama, Harar Nama Kevalam, Kalau Nasteva, 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 Gati Annatha. In this age of quarrel and hypocrisy, the only means to deliverance is chanting the holy names of the Lord. There is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way. So, this process of yoga is very difficult to practice in today's time. What should hold one's body, neck, and head erect in straight line and stare steadily at the tip of the nose. Thus, with an unagitated, subdued mind, devoid of fear, completely free from sex life, one should meditate upon me within the heart and make me the ultimate goal. Please see the dictionary above. Samyama, completely subduing. Mat, upon me. Chitta, concentrating the mind. Yukta, the actual yogi. Asita, should. Sit. Mat, me. Para, the ultimate goal. He should concentrate on me. Krishna is saying here, it is written in Bhagavad Gita, that you are not supposed to concentrate on some zero, some light. No, you have to concentrate on the Lord, the Paramatma seated inside your heart, on me. So here Vishnu Murti, Krishna is the ultimate goal of life, and the Vishnu Murti situated in one's heart is the object of yoga practice. To realize this Vishnu Murti within the heart, one has to observe complete abstinence from sex life. Therefore, one has to leave the home, live alone in a secluded place, remaining seated as mentioned above. One cannot enjoy sex life daily at home or elsewhere and then attend a so-called yoga class and thus become a yogi. One has to practice controlling the mind and avoiding all kinds of sense gratification, of which sex life is the chief. So celibacy is the primary, requisite of performing yoga. So now we come to shloka number 15. Thus practicing constant control of the body, mind and activities, the mystic transcendentalist, his mind regulated attains to the kingdom of God or the abode of Krishna by cessation of material existence. So here in this shloka, please read again the translation. That the mystic niyata, manasa, with regulated mind, shantim, peace, nirvana, paramam, cessation of material existence, mat santham, the spiritual sky, the kingdom of God, adigachati, does attain. So he attains the spiritual sky. What is the destination of the yogi? He attains the spiritual sky. That is known as the Sayujya Mukti. When you merge, you just get out of this material world and you come into the spiritual sky. But here there is no relationship with God. He has just crossed the boundary of the material sky. So this yogi also, when he is in union with the Paramatma in the heart, he enjoys satiation, peace inside his heart. And because he enjoys that peace, is also away from all material, cessation of material existence, all kinds of material activities. A, a consummate yogi who is perfect in understanding Lord, as clearly stated herein by the Lord himself, mat chitta, mat para, mat sthanam, in last two shlokas that he can attain real peace and can ultimately reach his supreme abode, Krishna Loka, known as Golok Vrindavan. So here, Srila Prabhupada is talking about a devotee. The devotee also is completely immersed in the Lord, and in fact, mat chitta, mat para, mat sthanam. In fact, a devotee reaches a higher, you know, uh, standard in mukti also, because he does not enter just the spiritual sky. He engages in the service of Lord even there. And the highest planet in the spiritual sky is Golok Vrindavan, where the Lord resides as Sri Krishna with all the gopis, cows, just like he portrayed in the Vrindavan Leela Krishna avatar here. He is like that. 16. There is no possibility of once becoming a yogi or Arjuna if one eats too much or eats too little, sleeps too much or does not sleep enough. So these are prerequisites. He must not eat too much or too less also, because he has to maintain this body. If the body is not healthy, why do you do asanas, pranayam? Earlier, when a yogi goes into the forest, he survives on fruits, vegetables, water, everything there. Gradually, when he is able to regulate his, life with pranayam, he gets his nourishment from the air itself. The purpose of food is to provide oxygen to the various cells of the body, and he is able to do that just by breathing. So after a while they even leave eating and water. They just by breathing only they can survive. And when they are further more advanced, like Dhruv Maharaj, he even stopped breathing. He just was in deep meditation on the Lord, so much so that uh, kind of gas started coming from his head. So much power one gets. He who is regulated in his habits of eating, sleeping, recreation, and work can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system. So, how important regulation in our life is, how we sleep, what we eat, how much we eat, where we eat. So, these are so important. 18. When the yogi, by practice of yoga, disciplines his mental activity and becomes situated in transcendence, devoid of all material desires, he is said to be well established in yoga. So the earlier state was yoga rurukshu. So the first stage is yam. Uh, Yam means like what should not be done. Niyam means what should be done. Then asana, that is different postures. Pranayam, controlling the breath. Pratyar is the process of separating the senses from sense objects. This is pratyahar. Only after pratyahar one is able to, you know, uh, able to perceive the form of God, Paramatma in the heart. Dharana, dhyan, focus on that. Samadhi, completely immersed. So this Ashtanga Yoga, till Pratyahar, you have not even entered the second stage of yoga. Only after separating the senses from sense object, you can perceive God. And that purification a devotee attains just by serving the Lord. So again, Ambarish Maharaj example is given. I have already told you that Durvasa Muni was an Ashtanga yogi, but he was nothing compared to Ambarish Maharaj, because Ambarish Maharaj immersion in the Lord was so great that nothing could agitate him. He was at that advanced stage, though not performing Ashtanga Yoga. And the Durvasa Muni's pride is broken with this episode. 19. As a lamp in the windless place does not waver, so the transcendentalist whose mind is controlled remains always steady in his meditation and on transcendental self. So, when there is no scope of distance, no wind, like a lamp is there is no wind, it's a steady flame. But please note here that all the conditions are removed. The wind is removed, the storms are removed, everything is removed. That is why the lamp is in a stable condition. But suppose the condition gets rough, there is always a chance of falling down. But for a truly Krishna conscious person, always absorbed in transcendence, the constant, undisturbed meditation on his worshipable Lord is as steady as a lamp in windless place. So, but the devotee is always focused, just like a lamp in a windless space. Whereas a yogi, he is also focused. He comes to that stage, but the chances of falling down are there. We have seen in the past. Now here, shloka number 20 to 23, Srila Prabhupada is explained the perfection stage. In the stage of perfection called trance or samadhi, one's mind is completely restrained from material mental activities by practice of yoga. This perfection is characterized by one's ability to see the self by the pure mind and to relish and rejoice in the self. In that joyous state, one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness, realized through transcendental senses. Established thus, one never departs from the truth. And upon gaining this, he thinks there is no greater gain. Being situated in such a position, one is never shaken, even in the midst of greatest difficulty. This indeed is the actual freedom from all miseries arising from material contact. So we see that uh, the yogi also attains the same tranquility within the heart. He's rejoicing within self. What does that mean? Because for any kind of enjoyment, he's enjoying within. There have to be two people. Enjoyment cannot take place alone. He is rejoicing in the self means he is rejoicing with God, with the Paramatma in his heart. There is a Paramatma, there is Atma in the heart. Both are sitting on the same tree. But because of his contamination, the Jiva is never able to see the Lord, even in his heart. And when the yogi realizes this, he enjoys immensely. Here, Srila Prabhupada again cautions even those yogis who are attracted by siddhis in the process of yoga are not perfectly situated. If yogis are attracted by the products of yoga, then they cannot attain the stage of perfection. So many yogis, you see, they fall down. Like the byproduct of this Ashtanga yoga is the Ashtasiddhis. They start enjoying the adulation they get by the public, by performance of, they can walk on water, some yogis can produce certain things, they will get you a mango in the hand. So these are all yogic siddhis. But people who do yoga for this purpose, they do not attain the stage of perfection. What is the stage of perfection? That immense peace and pleasure one experiences in relation to God. That is not there. So the chances of falling down in Ashtanga Yoga are great. As long as the material body exists, one has to meet the demands of the body, namely eating, sleeping, defending, and mating. But a person who is in pure bhakti yoga or Krishna consciousness does not arouse the sense while meeting the demands of the body. Rather, he accepts the bare necessities of life, making the best use of a bad bargain, and enjoys transcendental happiness in Krishna consciousness. So here, the yogi, the chances of falling down are there, but a person who has developed taste in bhakti yoga, the chances of falling down are very rare, because he has already started enjoying the service. Why we don't enjoy chanting? Why we don't enjoy going to the temple? Because still not purified. But people who have come to the state of developing a taste for chanting, taste for listening about the message of God, they enjoy immensely. They are so happy in knowing about the God that they don't pine for anything in the material world. 24. One should engage oneself in practice of yoga with determination and faith and not be deviated from the path. One should abandon without exception all material desires born of mental speculation and thus control all the senses on all sides by the mind. Gradually, step by step, one should become situated in trance by means of intelligence, sustained by full conviction, and thus the mind should be fixed on the self alone and should think of nothing else. From wherever the mind wanders due to its flickering, unsteady nature, one must certainly withdraw it and bring it back under control of the self. So the mind, the nature, it keeps running away. It's like that slippery fish, you know, you try to hold, it just slips away. So the in yoga, they get the mind back. Again, they get the mind back and focus. In mantra meditation that we do in the morning every day, the mind is locked between your chanting of the mantra and hearing of it. So we chant and we hear it, every word of the mantra. So the mind, when it is wandering away, you get it back again to chanting and hearing, chanting and hearing. So that is what we also do. We try to get the mind back. And the best part here is that when we are chanting, we are depending on God's power. We are Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So this mantra itself means that Hare means the internal potency of God. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. O internal potency of the Lord, please engage me in His service. So you are not, relying on your limited strength. You are taking strength from the Supreme. But a yogi is relying on his own strength, his own mental strength. So which is better, to rely on Krishna's strength or to rely on one's own strength? There is vast difference. When you depend on Krishna, they say, that a person, whom Krishna wants to protect, nobody can kill him. And a person whom Krishna wants to kill, nobody can save him, because he's in strength, nobody can match him. So the mind has to be brought back. The yogi whose mind is fixed on me verily attains the highest perfection of transcendental happiness. He is beyond the mode of passion. He realizes his qualitative identity with the Supreme, and thus he is freed from all reactions to past deeds. Thus, the self-controlled yogi, constantly engaged in yoga practice, becomes free from all material contamination and achieves the highest stage of perfect happiness in transcendental loving service to the Lord. A true yogi observes me in all beings and also sees every being in me. Indeed, the self-realized person sees me, the same Supreme Lord, everywhere. So we see the world through the glass of our consciousness. And when this glass is cleaned, people who have, in Rajogun, they see everything red. People in Tamogun see everything black. In Sattvagun, they see everything clean. And a transcendentalist, he sees everything related to Krishna. So, 30. One who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost, nor is he ever lost to me. So, a person who comes to this purified vision, for him, God is never lost. Even for a moment, he never forgets. I think some devotee had asked me this question, why you stick to 16 rounds a day? Actually, you are supposed to never forget Krishna, always remember Krishna, as per Bhagavad Gita. Even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given only these two principles to practice. But because we are so degraded, Srila Prabhupada actually initial in Gaudiya Mat, they used to chant 64 rounds a day. 108 beats are there in one round. And they had to chant 64 rounds. But when he went to the West and he said 64, they said, no way, we can't do it. Then he said 32, they said, no way, we still can't do it. And then he said 16 rounds. And he said, I will not hear anything. This is the final. You chant at least this much. Devote at least this much time to God. And I will close the deal at that. So it's not 16. You are supposed to remember God always with every breath. And a person who is engaged in, Krishna consciousness, he connects, he knows how to connect everything to God. He sees me everywhere and sees everything in me. So his Lord is never lost to him. 31. Such a yogi who engages in the worshipful service of Super Soul, knowing that I and the Super Soul are one, remains always in me in all circumstances. Now here again, I. Why Krishna is saying I? Many people don't accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead even after reading Bhagavad Gita. Everywhere he has said that I am Bhagwan. So a yogi who is practicing meditation on the super soul sees within himself the plenary portion of Krishna as Vishnu, with 4 hands holding conch shell, wheel, club, and lotus flower. So the Paramatma form of the Lord is the Chaturbhuj form. The Paramatma which is seated inside our heart is in Chaturbhuj form. It's an expansion of Lord Krishna only. 32. He is a perfect yogi who, by comparison to his own self, sees the true equality of all beings in both their happiness and their distress. This person, he understands, like there is a dog, he understands he is also a part of Lord, but because of his previous activities, he is suffering like this. He can understand the relationship between each and everything around him with God. Arjuna said, now 33. Now here begins Arjuna's doubt and his inability to follow this process. Arjuna said, O Madhusudana, the system of yoga which you have summarized appears impractical and unendurable to me, for the mind is restless and unsteady. So here introspection, please see, he's not unrealistic, Arjuna. He's introspecting and saying that this thing you are telling me about, leave the home, go to a pious place, sit alone, don't close your eyes, neither open your eyes, refrain your mind. My mind is not in my control. Arjuna is a devotee. He's not an ordinary person. To be a personal associate of the Lord is not ordinary. This person who has got personal association of Lord, the Lord is serving him by being his Sati. Do you think Arjuna is an ordinary person? What? He has finished all these yoga processes in the past. Only then he has come to the state. And here he is saying that Arjuna thought it was impossible to follow the system of yoga, even though he was favorably endowed in many ways. He belonged to the royal family, his birth was so nice, and he was a devotee. He had personal association of Lord, but he rejected this. 34. For the mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, and very strong, O Krishna. And to subdue it, I think, is more difficult than controlling the wind. So Arjuna himself said, I can't do this. What are you telling? Treta Yuga had rejected it. Now 35. Lord Sri Krishna said, O mighty armed son of Kunti, it is undoubtedly very difficult to curb the restless mind. But it is possible by suitable practice and detachment. Abhyasastu kaunteya. Abhyasena tu kaunteya. Please read the translation here. So, what are these two practices one can resort to in our own life, even in Bhakti Yoga, which the Lord is recommending? How to control the mind? Practice and detachment. Constant practice, daily practice. It's not easy, agreed. So here the Lord says, by detaching the mind from activities not devoted to the Lord, one can very easily learn Vairagya. Vairagya means detachment from matter and engagement of the mind in spirit. Abhyas, when you constantly engage your mind in activities of the Lord, Vairagya, that is detachment from material activities, will automatically occur. So what must we practice? We must practice attachment to devotional service and continue doing it. And slowly our taste for material activities will reduce. Vairagya will come. Actual renunciation or detachment. Similarly, by discharge of devotional service, one feels transcendental satisfaction as the mind becomes detached from material objectives. It is sometimes like curing a disease by the expert treatment and appropriate diet. Hearing of the transcendental activities of Lord Krishna is therefore expert treatment for the mad mind. And eating the foodstuffs offered to Krishna is the appropriate diet for the suffering patient. This treatment is the process of Krishna consciousness. So one must practice vairagya, detachment, even when in this life. And detachment starts, the process has already been discussed. The best thing is to engage our mind and senses in Krishna's service. 36. For one whose mind is unbridled, realization is difficult work, but one whose mind is controlled and who strives by appropriate means is assured of success. That is my opinion. So the whole process of yoga is to tame the mind. If your mind is tamed and if it listens to you, you can make the right choices based on scriptural injunctions. Arjuna said, "O Krishna, what is the destination of unsuccessful transcendentalist who in the beginning takes to the process of self-realization with faith, but who later desists due to worldly mindedness and thus does not attain perfection in mysticism?" Now another doubt Arjuna has is, suppose somebody fails He leaves now. Look at Bharat Maharaj. He went, he performed Ashtanga Yoga, and he had come to almost the stage of, uh, Dharana, Dhyan. He was going up for Samadhi, so elevated in Ashtanga Yoga. But that deer, it saw, he failed. Next birth, he was born as a stag. But even as a stag, he was attracted to listening about Krishna. He would go and sit outside ashram. You see, these inclinations, they are carried forward in our mind intelligence, false ego. He went even as a stag. So Krishna consciousness is not restricted just to us. Even plants, animals, they benefit by hearing about Krishna. And after hearing all this, he understands from inside, even as a stag, what mistake I did in my last birth. And next birth, he's born as Jad Bharat. And as Jad Bharat, he behaves, though he is most intelligent, he behaves like a madman in front of the public, so that nobody disturbs him. Nobody likes to have any relationship with him. Nobody talks to him, because he has understood again he can fall down just by reacting in the wrong way. 38. O mighty arm Krishna, does not such a man who is bewildered from the path of transcendence fall away from both spiritual and material success and perish like a riven cloud with no position in any sphere? So again, Arjuna is doubtful. Maybe such a man, he is nowhere. He is neither in the material world nor the spiritual world. This is my doubt, O Krishna. I ask you to dispel it completely, but for you, no one is to be found who can destroy this doubt. So now Krishna replies, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O son of Pratha, a transcendentalist engaged in auspicious activities does not meet with destruction either in this world or in the spiritual world. So bhakti is never destroyed. Whatever spiritual purification you have reached in this birth uh, is carried forward. Suppose you are purified 40% now. Next birth, you will start from 41. Material, accomplishments are not like that. They become zero. So the unsuccessful yogi, 41, after many, many births of enjoyment on planets of, so what is their destination? The unsuccessful yogi, after many, many years of enjoyment on planets of pious living entities, is born into a family of righteous people or a family of aristocracy. So now the Lord is telling about people who practice this yoga system for a short period of time, maybe 10 years or 5 years in their life. So what happens? These people, they are given a chance to enjoy in the Swarga Lokas, the higher planetary systems, where the facilities for sense gratification are, uh, you know, uh, too many, so much sense. And after they have finished their pious account, they take birth in rich families. Why rich aristocratic families? Because they are not harassed by the need of earning their livelihood. They have so much that they can easily, the circumstances are ideal for them to, again pursue their studies or maybe their bhakti, yoga. They can easily do it. But what happens when people have riches and, all these things, they get into sense gratification, they forget all about spiritual advancement. 42. If unsuccessful after long practice of yoga, he takes birth in a family of transcendentalists who are surely great in wisdom. Certainly such a birth is rare in the world. And if somebody has performed penances for a long time, He takes birth in a family of transcendentalists, yogis, where he knows about the principles of devotional service from the young age. The environment which is created in cultivating him further is very conducive. So even to get association, we must have performed austerities. Please look at the Rishi Munis of Dandakaranya. They performed severe austerities to be personal associates of the Lord. And in the next birth, they are born as gopis. So whoever is a personal associate of the Lord has already performed severe austerities in the past. And Ashtanga Yogi will also eventually come and rise to the platform of being personally associated in service of the Lord. The gopis are the biggest example. The Rishi Munis of Dandakaranya, they performed severe Ashtanga Yoga, but they failed. They could not complete it. Next birth, gopis, Putna, uh, Vaishno Devi Mata, they perform great austerities. In fact, they say Vaishno Devi Mata is still waiting for the Lord, Kalki Avatar, to come and marry her. So they perform great austerities. So they get the environment to cultivate their devotional service. On taking such a birth, he revives the divine consciousness of his previous life, and he again tries to make further progress in order to achieve complete success, O son of Kuru. By virtue of the divine consciousness of his previous life, he automatically becomes attracted to the yogic principles. Look at Bharat Maharaj. Even as a stag, Hiran, he's attracted to listening to the Rishi Munis in the forest. He goes and sits outside a stag. Just imagine. It is not restricted to just us. Even if you are born as an animal, you will still be attracted to the principles of devotional service. Even without seeking them, such an inquisitive transcendentalist stands always above the ritualistic principles of the scriptures. So, such a transcendentalist is much, much, much higher than people who practice these rituals and karma kanda activities for fruitive results. People perform all kinds of ritualistic activities to fulfill their desire. A yogi is much higher than them, whether he's Ashtanga yogi, Jnana yogi, or Bhakti yogi. Why he is higher? Because his purpose is to attain the supreme, not a fruitive desire. Give me house, give me car, I will do puja, I will offer so many coconuts. No, he's much higher. And when the yogi engages himself with sincere endeavor in making further progress, being washed of all the contamination, then ultimately achieving perfection after many, many births of practice, he attains the supreme goal. What is the supreme goal? You are engaged in personal loving service of the Lord, close to him. This is the highest perfection. What the gopis achieved. They were actually Rishi Munis of Dandakaranya, performed severe penances just to be personal associate of the Lord. 46. A yogi is greater than an ascetic, greater than empirist, and greater than a fruitive worker. Therefore, O Arjuna, in all circumstances be a yogi. Now, the Lord is explaining the hierarchy, yoga ladder here, that a yogi, here yogi means a bhakti yogi, is greater than an ascetic. Ascetic means Ashtanga yogi. Greater than the empirist. The Ashtanga yogi is greater than a Jnana yogi and greater than a fruitive worker. And a Jnana yogi is greater than a karma yogi or Nishkam karma. So therefore, O Arjuna, in all circumstances, try to be a yogi. So 47, this is the concluding verse in which the Lord declares that being in bhakti yoga or devotional service is the highest perfection. Yoginam api sarvesham madgatenantaratmanam shraddhavan bhajate ho mam same yukta tamo mataha. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. And of all the yogis, the one with great faith who always abides in me, thinks of me within himself and renders transcendental loving service to me. He is the most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. That is my opinion, Arjuna. So, of all these, the Lord Himself has concluded. Please hear. Yoginam, of yogis, api, also, sarvesham, all types of, matgatenana, abiding in me, always thinking of me, anta atmana, within himself, shraddhavan, in full faith, bhajate. This word bhajate is bhajadhatu, which means service. Bhajate renders transcendental loving service. Yeah, one who, Mam, to me, the Supreme Lord. Sa, he, me, by me. Yukta Tamha, the greatest yogi. Mata Tamha is considered by me. So the Lord here has explained the gradation of this yogic process, the gradual elevation in the yoga ladder to the highest point. What is the highest point? As per Krishna, not as per my whims. Is that a yogi in devotion, bhakti yogi is the highest of all. Anyone who does not render service and neglects his duty unto the primeval Lord, who is the source of all living entities, will certainly fall down from his constitutional position. In this verse, also the word bhajanti is used, therefore, bhajanti applicable to the Supreme Lord only. The bhajan we do is applicable only in relation to the Lord, bhajanti. It is not applicable to other demigods. You can only bhajanti. Whereas the word worship can be applied to demigods or to any other forming. You can worship a rich man also. You can worship demigods also because what they provide you. But bhajanti means service. And who is the actual Bhokta Ram Yajna Tapasam? Who is the actual Purushottam enjoyer of this service? Bhokta Ram Yajna Tapasam 5.27 period. He is the benefactor of all the austerities, all the yogas, all the processes. So bhajanti is used specifically for the Lord, not for any other being. Only the fools deride the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna. Such fools take upon themselves to write commentaries on Bhagavad Gita without an attitude of service to the Lord. Consequently, they cannot properly distinguish between the word bhajanti and worship. You can worship your ancestors also. But bhajanti, service, is only for Lord. It is used. The culmination of all kinds of yoga practices lies in bhakti yoga. All other yogas are but means to come to the point of bhakti. In bhakti yoga, yoga actually means bhakti yoga. All other yogas are progression towards the destination of bhakti yoga. From the beginning of karma yoga to the end of bhakti yoga is a long way of self-realization. Karma yoga without fruitive results is the beginning of this path. that is Nishkam Karma Yoga. When Karma Yoga increases in knowledge and renunciation, the stage is called Dhyana Yoga. When Dhyana Yoga increases in meditation on the super soul by different physical processes, the mind is on him. It is called Ashtanga Yoga. And when one surpasses the Ashtanga Yoga and comes to the point of Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, it is called Bhakti Yoga. The culmination, factually, Bhakti Yoga is the ultimate goal. But to analyze Bhakti Yoga minutely, one has to understand these other yogas. The yogi who is progressive is therefore on the true path of eternal good fortune. One who sticks to a particular point and does not make further progress is called by that particular name, Karma Yogi, Jnana Yogi, or Dhyana Yogi, Raja Yogi, Hatha Yogi, etc. If one is fortunate enough to come to the point of Bhakti Yoga, it is to be understood that he has surpassed all other yogas. Therefore, to become Krishna consciousness is the highest stage of yoga. Just as when we speak of Himalayan, we refer to the world's highest mountain, of which the highest peak is Mount Everest, is considered to be the culmination. It is by great fortune that one comes to Krishna consciousness on the path of Bhakti Yoga. To become well situated according to the Vedic direction, the ideal yogi concentrates his attention on Krishna, who is called Shama Sundara, who is as beautifully colored as the cloud, whose lotus-like face is as effulgent as sun, whose dress is brilliant with jewels and whose body is flower garlanded, illuminating all sides is his gorgeous luster, which is called Brahma Jyoti. He incarnates in different forms such as Rama, Narsimha, Varha, and Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and descends like a human and Vasudeva. So, only the most fortunate will come to the standard of Bhakti Yoga. Thus ends the Bhakti Vedanta purport to the sixth chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of Dhyana Yoga. So from here on, from chapter 7 to chapter 12, we are going to discuss in detail Bhakti Yoga, how it is performed, how it begins, and what you learn, what you should avoid, everything regarding that we will learn. So far, we have seen how Karma Yoga is performed, how Jnana Yoga is performed, how Ashtanga Yoga is performed. Now we will learn how to perform Bhakti Yoga. So, any questions or comments about today's class?
Yes, Mataji, I wanted to ask that how to do means mantra jap, this meditation.
Mantra jap, Mataji, you have to deliver your mind. See, mind, so mantra actually means mind, mantra, that which delivers your mind. So there are many mantras in our Vedic, knowledge in Vedas. So your mantra will deliver you from a given situation to whatever you desire. And the highest mantra that can be is that mantra which delivers you from the cycle of birth and death. So
Yeah.
that is why the Maha Mantra, which we chant, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. This is the highest mantra that can be, where you are requesting the internal potency of the Lord, Srimati Radharani, to engage you in his eternal service in your constitutional position. This is your request in the mantra, and one must keep this mood when chanting this mantra. Oh Lord, I have seen all of this world. I have seen everything up and down, and I have realized that you are the supreme. I'm requesting Srimati Radharani now I have learned my lesson to engage me in your service. This should be the mood. And the process, the way you do is on the beads. Why on the beads? Because even the skin touch is involved. All your senses are involved. Your tongue is involved. And normally, people do it in association of devotees or in the temple where they can see the Lord also. So your tongue is involved, your ears are involved, your eyes are involved, your skin is involved, and you must chant on each beat. You must keep your forefinger out because this finger is criminal. It is always fault finding. So that is why they keep this finger out, and you must hold the bead with your
Okay.
this middle finger and the thumb. And if I have a bead, I can show it to you. Get my beads. So we normally, we normally keep a bead bag. Why we keep a big bead bag? Because this is very sacred. This is all our earning. And out of negligence, we must not throw it here and there, and it should not be touched by anything impure. So that's why we keep it in a bead bag. We hold it like this, keep this finger out, and we chant. First, we offer prayers to our acharyas, because without their, sanction, their power, we would not be connected to the Lord. So this, what we say, Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Ti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschat Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta. We ask them all to give us the power to chant. Bless us to chant. And we start. And each time you say, you can move a beat forward. And when you come to the end of the beat, you must never cross this. You
Okay.
must turn. You have
Okay.
finished one round, you turn. And again to the second round. So every day we do 16 rounds in the morning, and we are ready for battling it out. There is after that, we are in the world, Like Prabhuji said, you have to be competitive. We are grastas, so we are ready. So that's the process, Mataji. Oh, you must hear what you are chanting. If you're saying Hare, you should just hear Hare. Nothing should
Yeah,
come.
yeah. This only I wanted to know that how to focus.
Ah,
Like
so
what I
then,
am speaking,
ah,
it should be audible to me, and I should be very much conscious to the words. That how?
correct. Yes.
Okay, okay,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. It should be audible to you. You have to lock your speech and hearing, lock all your senses. Only Krishna.
okay. So means it has to be done in very silent and when everybody is sleeping, because nowadays it's very much distracting. Means everybody is just distracting somehow.
Nothing like that, Mataji. We chant online every day. Not that alone. Maybe initially you need a little practice, but chanting should always be done in association of devotees.
Yeah,
Many
that is, I think every meditation helps in that way.
uh,
Community feeling and similar intention and
uh,
like coordinated thing. So,
like for meditation you have to go to jungle, but for chanting, congregational chanting is the best. If you come to any of the ISKCON temples after Mangal Aarti in the morning, Vrindavan or anyone, devotees sit in the temple and they chant, and there is a huge humming sound of chanting, and it is like so energetic. Because association of devotees, sometimes what happens when you feel lazy, aaj nahi karte bhai, leave it alone. But the association, it pulls you
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
You see, everyone is doing, I must also do. So you must try to chant in association of devotees. That is the best process.
Okay.
So it will help you. It will help your mind to calm down and get away from material desires and be more focused on it. Initially, you see, people don't find taste. Just like, there is a story. There were two ants. One used to live on the hill of salt. One used to live on a hill of sugar.
Mm.
So once what happened, they both met. And the ant which used to live on sugar used to say, my taste is very sweet. I'm sweet. And this salt guy, the ant, he feels, what sweet, sweet he's saying. He's boasting so much about sweet, sweet. What is sweet? Let me taste. So he said, okay, show me your taste. I'll taste and see. He tastes. And he says, kuch bhi nahi, this is like salty only. So the person, the ant on the sugar mountain, he says, open your mouth. And he opens and he sees that so much salt is collected in his mouth from his being on the salt that, the sugar that he's tasting also, is getting mixed with the salt taste. So he's not able to relish the taste of sugar. So he says, first you spit out the salt, then you taste sugar. So it takes time for cleansing. But the process is that to purify, you must chant, even though you don't like in the beginning. Slowly, the mind is very stubborn. It will give you 1,000 theories not to chant. Mind is so strong. But the mind has to be subdued by continuing to chant. Then one day your mind will come to a standard where, no, Baba, let us listen to him. She's not going to listen to me. But first finish the chanting, then do something else.
Yeah, it's like a stubborn baby child,
Yes, it won't listen.
wandering always.
Always wandering. And you will see this, there is in this chapter, there's Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a term called Pareshanubhava.
Hmm.
So Pareshanubhava is known as the spiritual satisfaction. When you chant, now suppose I don't chant in the morning.
Okay.
Normally we finish our chanting by 7 in AM in the morning. And we finish it.
Okay.
Because I am up at around 4:30, 4:45. Do my Mangal Aarti. Then I finish my chanting by 7. Mangal Aarti also we do.
Hmm.
And because we are Grastas, we cannot be so particular. Like the temple has so many rules and norms. We do our altar and all, and our sevas, offer food to Lord and all. And then you are out into the world. So to develop the taste, it will take some time, but you have to tame your mind for that. The mind will give excuses. Don't listen.
Yeah. Okay.
Any more questions?
I was just curious to know because till now I have not done this chanting, and I used to think that how to be because breath one I can do. Okay, I have done and I've been doing, but I actually wanted to learn this, that how to.
In fact, we have a group for chanting in the morning. If you want, we can add you to that group.
Okay.
You can see how others are chanting in the morning. Everybody has their own thing, but the criteria is like we normally sometimes beginners know we mute all the participants, but we can see them
Okay.
because their sound will disturb us sometimes. So you hear them, pay your obeisances, mute them, and you see. And some people are really enjoying themselves. They are moving, shaking, singing. Everybody is in a different mood. They are experiencing at some level, satisfaction. You
Mhm.
must see that. If you all want, we can add you to our group and
I would means really want to see that, even be part of it.
yes, I will put you on to the group and you can see how everybody chants.
So just one question, like it has to be in a very synchronized way, I think, if everybody is doing together.
No,
So,
no, 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 not necessary.
okay.
Because you, when you go to the temple, you see just a humming vibration in the temple hall.
Mhm.
You know, you cannot hear everybody clearly. Everybody is in their own mood. If you are concentrating on synchronization, that will become singing.
Mm.
Or you are just hearing what you are saying. That's all.
Mhm.
In Vrindavan, when we go, we have Srila Prabhupada's room where everybody, all Maharaj and all, they come and chant. They're just immersed in chanting. All you see is a humming. Here is humming sound, you know. And that humming itself is, the vibrations are so strong that you're so energized. Yeah, the recommendation is that, see, the effect of the three modes of nature is there at different times during the day. Like the morning time, the Brahma Muhurat that we say, you know, from almost 3:30 a.m. to about 7 a.m. is Brahma Muhurat, you know. That is predominated by Sattva Gun. The effect of Sattva Gun is greatest at that time. Even if you see biologically, scientifically, they say, you know, that people who rise early, and especially who sleep well, the pineal gland nowadays, they say, you know, which works only in dark. So that effect is different. And the time, you know, like from about 10:30 to about 5:30 a.m. in the evening is under Rajogun. So at that time, the mode of passion is strong. Work, drive, all these things should be done at that time. You'll get the best results. And the tamogun starts like after 5:36 evening time, you know, when it gets dark. So all the activities of tamogun, so at that time, if you do chanting, the effect will not be as good as what you do in sattvagun.
Okay.
Because chanting is an activity of sattvagun. See, like having going to club, entertainment, all these people do at night, tamogun, mating, all that activities done at night in ignorance. So the activities of sattvagun should be performed at that time. That is the best way to do.
Okay.
Say.
Hmm.
So Mataji, I will put you onto the group. They will add you
Okay.
to the group, your number, and you see how others are chanting.
Yeah. Okay.
Mataji, me too.
Okay. Sure, sure, Mataji. Deepika
Last,
Mataji. Yes, yes,
yes, Mataji, I have visited Vrindavan, Srimad Prabhupada, they have function going on there and it's beautiful.
yes. It is that you cannot explain that satisfaction which you experience there just by being there. And that is because your soul is getting connected to the whole. Even a
Correct.
dog will experience it. Like if a dog, like we had a street dog coming and I feed them prashadam. Sometimes, you know, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is playing. The dog, it sleeps when I play that mantra. The dog doesn't know it is mantra, but that satisfaction even a dog is getting, you know, just by being there. You cannot explain it to anybody. It's there. So I will add you both in the group. Any more questions for today's class?
Thank you.
So I think we will end the class here. There are no more questions. वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। हरे कृष्णा।
Thank you, Mataji.
You're welcome, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji.
You're welcome, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji.